Well, wasn't this a good idea? Just come outside, sit on in the front, in the dark, to tell y'all a little story. But that's what we're doing. My husband's watching the television, and so it's too loud. So we'll come outside where it's loud. I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of just a little information because I can't stand when we know who then you're who I'm talking about. She likes to bring it. She just throws things out there in her own, making. I guess she thinks if you think that just everybody in our family is a crazy, you know, I don't know, everybody's got issues, and of course that excuses anything she does because apparently, she just got it from us. Well, yeah, I got issues. They're not the same kind of issues, but of course I got issues. But I just want to kind of share this with you because it causes confusion when she gets done. She was talking earlier, saying about her grandmother, or I don't know if she said great. She should have said her great grandmother, but I believe she said grandmother, and it left the impression she was talking about my mother spending most of her life in a mental institute. But okay, so I want to kind of just tell you a little bit. My mother, no, my mother was sharp until the last breath she took, and she never spent any time in a mental institute or in a psychiatrist's office or anywhere concerning mental health. But now my grandmother, Mary's great grandmother, she had been in places, and it started in let's see, in the early 1930s when she had her first child. She, in my opinion, she was one of those. She had postpartum depression, and being married to probably one of the most evil people I've ever read or encountered in my life. He would put her in a, he'd send her away because that's what, men were allowed to do that. I don't know if women were allowed to send men away. You don't really, it's not, I kind of did a little looking around, studying it, just reading old articles and stuff, but it was just so easy back then to just have someone put into a state mental facility. And of course, that was here in Georgia. And so she was sent to the state hospital back then. And, she would be in there short periods of time and she would go home. My guess when the depression, because my mother and her sisters and brothers, I grew up with all of them. My mother, she raised them with myself and my younger sister. So, it's kind of I hate that Mary feels that she can tell things that she has no idea what she's talking about. She just hears things and throws it way out of proportion. So my great grandmother, yes, she did, in and out, probably through each one of the children, each baby she had. She went, and it was because of he was evil. And another day I'll go into all that, but you know, these are things that she says we don't acknowledge this kind of thing. No, we don't get online and like such as her and just give these reasons as our excuses for anything. Uh, because I don't know, it's just not something you do. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't understand that kind of thinking. But let me just clear it up a little bit for you. You know, my great grandmother. I have her medical records. I have a lot of them actually. Now some I don't, but I do have a whole pile full. And nowhere does it say she had schizophrenia. She, in her early days, she had lost a few babies, and it devastated her. And if she would be signed away, she couldn't. She just wasn't allowed to have that kind of grief. And plus, honestly, it was my grandfather's free ticket to do as he pleased. And he was a moonshiner, and there's quite an interesting story about that. I'll tell you maybe another day. But it's he would just send her away. It was easy, but nowhere. And this is from her records. Was she ever diagnosed with schizophrenia? And I think Mary uses that one because it is one. I believe they say it can skip generations, and it's probably one that could be, if I'm not mistaken, it could be an inherited thing. Now, not everybody, of course. Usually it affects people in the early 20s is when it kind of manifests as typically, is what I've read. And that would make sense, really, for some things. But, you could probably put that on her, my great-grandmother, because she was in her 20s, but that's when she had her first baby. But, no, it's not in any of her medical records, and I believe it would be if that was what her diagnosis was. She lived a life of abuse with my grandfather, Mary's great-grandfather. Let me be clear. And, I think after a while it did beat her down mentally. But no, that was not her diagnosis. And, and of course it beat my mom up pretty bad too, because she had to take that. She took a lot of abuse. A lot. And I'm going to tell y'all something. Being with my mom's brothers and sisters and growing up with them thinking they were my brothers and sisters, we all talk about things, and we would, it was just funny. I would hear their stories, and the way they would, not that the story was funny, it was always a sad thing, but the way they would tell it, they found the humor in the way they were telling it, and, it stuck with me. And it truly bothers me when I hear Mary throwing things up that she wants to use as her reasoning. It's not her. It's just not good to do that. And I hate that. I hate how she distorts the truth. Because I'm going to tell you, the women in my family have endured, maybe not as much as some, and probably more than others. But none of them ever gave up their fight. My mother never lost her fight for her family. I mean, when she ran away from Georgia to get away from her abusive father, she, one by one, took her sisters and brothers with her. And she kept them and never looked back on it. It takes strength to do some of the things my mother did. And I always draw from that strength. And whereas Mary takes every small thread of weakness that she detects and just runs with it as her excuse. I'm grateful for my mother and her strength, and I'm saddened that she was a part of that monster that has distorted not only our lives, but an innocent woman's life, and several others. Her victims just keep lining up, some living, some gone, and I just don't know. I don't know. She really needs to be institutionalized and maybe really, truly, heavily medicated, because she is a danger, and I can't. She can be a danger with her words, her lies. She's something. But my great-grandmother, she did have many, many bad breaks in life, and she's not Mary's excuse. In fact, she's not Mary's excuse. Mary don't really know anything about her. And in fact, I've just recently learned some things about her. She did live with us. My mother had brought her out of the, she had gotten her signed out when she was older and brought her to live with us. So my great-grandmother lived in the home when I was growing up. And she was always just real quiet. She never said too much because she was a broken person. She was just broken. I can't imagine what she has been through. I've seen some of her records, but unfortunately, Augusta, some of their records, either they're no longer available or they were conveniently destroyed because they did a lot of things there that I've read that, now I don't know if it's true, but, that they probably they wouldn't be good for today's world, I can tell you. So I don't know what all she endured, And I really never took too much time to get to know her when I was young because, honestly, I held a little resentment there because I knew what kind of life that my mother had grew up with. I knew, I probably knew more than I needed to know. And I just could not understand it. I just could not understand how that all happened to my mom and her siblings. And there be a mom there, sometimes. She wasn't there all the time, but sometimes. And so I really didn't, I was more of a rebellious kid anyway. And, my mom was a loyal, loyal woman. My God. Like I said, she loved her mom until she loved her all the way to the end. And you have to admire, I do admire that. I admire my mother's ability to not, not hold that and blame her for everything. But she didn't. And she was, like I said before, she was even with my grandfather when he passed away. And when he asked for her forgiveness on his deathbed, she told me she accepted that. And, in my heart, I don't know how. I'm not that kind of person. Uh, I'm just not. And, like, I'm resentful. I will never forgive Mary. That I can honestly say at this point. I don't know, something might change, but right now, no. So to me, that takes a special kind of person. But I wanted you to know the little bit of backstory to that because, I don't like how she just throws that out there. She not only wants to use mental illness as her excuse, she wants to use everything she can find in the background of our family as the reason why she is the way she is. Well, like I say, I'm a little crazy, but not that kind of crazy. I kind of beat my own drum most times, but I've never been in trouble. I've never been put away for a few days. I've never had that. Um, I don't know. I do have breaks now. I do have a lot of. I do get upset and I get emotional and I have little, you know, I have moments. I have big moments where I don't know if I can go one more day, but I'm going to tell you, I don't get out there and just start screaming it across the world. Because, usually if you come outside screaming that you feel this way, normally somebody's going to come and get you some help. And that's when you end up, getting a kind of a 72-hour hold. And, some people like Mary, they enjoy that kind of attention. And it validates their excuse, is what it does. But that's not me, that's just not who I am, personally. So I'm going to drop that right there. And I will talk to y'all in a little bit, but if I don't get back to you right away, I want you all to know I wish you a Happy New Year. I wish you the most abundant blessings of your lives. I hope that each one of you get on a path of having more than enough, and I hope you just go with it. I hope your house is overflowing. I really do hope your homes are overflowing with love and happiness and all the things in the world that you desire. And I hope when you get them that you appreciate them and share them so that you'll always have something to give. You'll always have if you can give. I do love each one of you. I truly do. Y'all hear that? I never thought that I would feel the way I do. And I'm grateful that y'all have allowed me to feel that. So I thank you, all of you, for enriching my life, for just blessing me with your kind words. And just know that I'm so thankful that you're in this world with me. And I will carry you for the rest of my time. So Happy New Year.